Dr. Kemi Omotubara joins us now to talk about the legal angle to all of the conversation about regulating or censoring the social media. So many countries have had their own ways of going around this, Dr. Omotubara. How should we be approaching it in the first place? Do we need another law or do we have enough? What do you see happening when Nigeria talks about social media censorship or social media regulation?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, and thanks for inviting me. So, when we talk about regulating social media, I think, well, the government, let me just first of all say that governments that want to regulate social media, they don't like the use of the word censorship because that has a negative connotation, in terms of what they think they are trying to do. So,
What's the
how should
difference?
we?
What's the difference between regulating social media and censoring social media?
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that from the perspective of the people who are going to be subject to regulation, this can be seen as censorship. So it depends on the side of the aisle that you are on. Government would not say, they are censoring, they will say they are regulating. Whereas those who are at the receiving end of the regulation see that as suppressing, speech, and including free speech, any type of speech sometimes, So it depends on what side of the aisle you are. I doubt that the Honorable Minister would say, we want to censor social media. That's why you hear him using words like regulating social media. And, I'm happy that when he was making that point, that bit that we listened to, he was saying about different aspects of how you can actually regulate this space. It doesn't have to be the top to bottom kind of throwing laws or legislation at everything, because that also has its negative impact. For example, in Nigeria, I would say that we don't even understand the full we don't even understand the full dimensions or the full connotations of fake news that we so much want to regulate, that we so much talk about. So the word is bandied around. Everyone says, that is fake news. If it's news that they don't like, that is not favorable to them, to delegitimize the media or the news. They say, fake news. It seems to be a response, to every thing, every information that people don't like. And
okay, Dr. Motobora, could you tell us,
yes,
legally speaking, is there a need for this?
I would say no.
Okay, but how then?
I would say, let me just finish that point. Why I'm saying no. There are two reasons why, I say categorical no. The first one I was making, initially was that we don't understand the dimensions. If you ask people what fake news is, they are going to give you different and vague answers, from news that does not favor them, to misleading news, to fabricated content, and all sorts of things. So, you have that on the side. And the second is that this is becoming highly political. And it's not only in Nigeria, it's everywhere. And when an issue is political, you want to be careful about throwing legislation at it, because then, the whole issue is one that revolves around emotions. People are very emotive about it. This is government trying, to stifle free speech. this is a kind of surveillance system where government wants to watch everything that people do. So no matter how you try to then, present this kind of regulatory regime, it doesn't sit well with people and is likely to be resisted. So
Okay.
that's problematic in
Doctor,
itself, and that's why I
yeah.
said, apart from the specific provisions themselves.
Yeah. Dr.
Yes.
Motubara, just one moment. What are the
So
implications?
apart from the specific, yes.
What are the implications? Should the federal government at various levels go ahead with this action, whether it's censorship or regulation? What are the implications on the citizens that the people need to know and maybe government needs to know before they go on?
So this was, I've mentioned part of that because we don't have a clear understanding of what we are even regulating, there's going to be some ambiguity around, what is fake news and what are you regulating at all. And I said also that people who don't have faith or confidence in a political, an issue that has become political.
Yeah,
But
Doctor,
more
I understand that one.
yeah,
I understand that one.
I'm going to that.
Okay.
Let me just make this final point. So,
Okay.
the other important aspect is how that regulation collides with freedom of expression that is a constitutionally guaranteed right. Okay, so because if, for example, you look at the Constitution, opinion is protected free speech under the Constitution and under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Ideas are protected free speech. So it doesn't have to be a fact. What you hold and what you disseminate does not have to be a fact. So going the route of, regulating social media and talking about facts does tend to raise the bar, and it collides with these rights that are already guaranteed, that are not specific about, protecting information that is true or that is a fact.
Okay, well, just one more thing on this one, because there are so many issues that to look at. So there are laws, the law of tort, law against libel, law against slander, and all of those things. Again, should the federal government go ahead with this, what laws or what rights beside the one that you just talked about, the rights to freedom of speech and all of that, what are the laws or the rights or the privileges of Nigerians that will be taken away should the government go ahead with this?
Yeah. So I've just mentioned the most important right, which is a fundamental right. That's the freedom of speech and freedom to disseminate information. And I said that provision of the Constitution, indeed, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights actually protects, expressions, speeches that are not facts. So if you look at it from that perspective, you know that this kind of regulation is heading on a collision with fundamental rights. So that's the most important aspect of it. The thought of defamation that we were talking about, this is, is an exception to that, to that free speech. So you have the right to make all these comments. You have the right to your free speech and all that. But where your right now leads to injury or damage, where what you write or what you say affects another person prejudicially, causes them harm, damage, injury, then your right is restrained in that way. The other person has a right to take action against you for defamation or under the defamation laws. So these are the things. But strictly speaking, in terms of the news regulation, what is at stake is actually the fundamental right of the
Well, there are so
individual
many.
that is being
Yeah.
threatened.
Yeah.
If the information is false, you can take
Madam,
action,
there are so many.
under
Yeah.
the defamation law and
Yeah.
challenge that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many issues to look at under this, one of which is, so how do we police the social media without this kind of regulation? Is there a need for it? But all of that we have to let go for now. We have to thank you very much. Dr. Kemi Omotubora is of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. She's an IT law expert. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you.